In this video, I will show you using screenshots from the body cam footage exactly why what happened to Sonya Massey was unjustified and illegal. Who was acting in self-defense? Was it Deputy Grayson or was it Sonya Massey? Well, we have to look to Illinois law. And there are two important things there that you need to realize. One is that you cannot claim self-defense under Illinois law if you were the initial aggressor. Secondly, it's actually legal to use self-defense against a police officer if that police officer is using excessive force against you. So let's go through exactly what happened, because there are indisputable facts, and neither side gets to make up their own facts. These are the facts, step by step, of what actually happened to Sonya Massey. So the first Sonya Massey video that I posted on X right after it dropped from the Illinois State Police went really viral, almost 40 million views. During the ensuing debates, as well as having time to fully digest the video and going over it numerous times, I saved a series of screenshots utilizing both officers' body cam footage that takes us step by step through the shooting that occurred. And these facts, which again cannot be disputed, we all have to work with them, they show that this was an unjustified shooting. And I'll show you exactly where they show that. I noticed that there was a lot of misinformation and a lot of confusion. So I saved all these screenshots and then I formed them into a thread on X. And it's still up on my X account. It's at John Bryan ESQ, the civil rights lawyer, on X. And it's gone pretty viral as well, almost at 1 million views. So let's go through them because they establish the baseline that neither side can dispute here. And this is using timestamps. So the first screenshot is at 1:19 and 44 seconds. And this is where Deputy Grayson asks Sonya Massey for her ID. He's inside her house. He says, "You're not in trouble. I just need your last name." She's not under arrest. She isn't being accused of having committed any crime. Deputy Grayson is in her house as an invitee. She's not in handcuffs. We don't see her being frisked. There's no indication that she's armed or dangerous. At this point, this is just a conversation with somebody who had called police with concerns about a prowler or that she felt unsafe for some reason. There are indications that she had mental issues. Unfortunately, it wasn't until after the shooting that any of these officers radioed dispatch and asked if there was any mental health related history at this address. That's something that they could have done before the fact. Here's the next thing that happened. At 1:20 and 16 seconds, as Sonya looks for her ID, Deputy Grayson notices a pot on the stove that's boiling, and he points it out to the other deputy, who, by the way, as far as I have seen, is thus far unnamed, so I'll refer to him as the other deputy. At 1:20 and 18 seconds, the other deputy then turns and he looks towards the pot that's on the stove. His body cam video shows the pot on the stove with blue flames under it. The other deputy says, "Check on the burner," to the best that I can tell, though it's kind of difficult to hear. At 1:20 and 21 seconds, as Sonya gets up and walks around the other deputy to walk towards the burner, as instructed, Deputy Grayson then says, "We don't need a fire while we're here." At 1:20 and 23 seconds, Sonya says, "Right," in response to Deputy Grayson's concern about a fire, and she reaches to switch off the stove's burner. At 1:20 and 27 seconds, after turning off the flames, Sonya grabs oven mitts and she removes the pot from the stove, heading towards the sink with the pot. At 1:20 and 29 seconds, as Sonya moves the pot from the stove to the sink, the other deputy then laughs and turns around and walks away from the kitchen and towards Deputy Grayson, who is also either smiling or laughing at Sonya. At 1:20 and 30 seconds, in response to the officer's laughter at her, Sonya, who is now at the sink with the pot, turns her head towards the other deputy and asks, "Why are you moving?" At 1:20 and 33 seconds, the other deputy asks, "Huh?" To which Sonya again asks, "Where are you going?" At 1:20 and 34 seconds, the other deputy, while laughing, says, "Away from your hot steaming water." Sonya replies, "Away from my hot steaming water?" At 1:20 and 36 seconds, the other deputy says, "Yeah," as he turns his attention away from Sonya and begins to look around the house, which also implies that he does not view Sonya as a threat. If he did, why would he turn his back to her, literally? We don't see Deputy Grayson at this point because Grayson has not yet turned on his body cam. At 1:20 and 37 seconds, after the other deputy says yeah, Sonya can be heard pouring steaming water into the sink, which is causing sizzling sounds as she casually responds, "Ah, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." At 1:20 and 40 seconds, Deputy Grayson loudly says, "Huh?" And Sonya calmly repeats, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And we can see on the other deputy's body cam at the time that this occurs, Sonya is still facing towards the sink, and she has turned her head towards over her left shoulder, looking towards the deputies who really are on the other side of the room that she's in and not even in the kitchen with her. We can see on the video that she is not walking towards them in any way or approaching them or even holding the pot. She's got the pot at the sink. She clearly is not using the pot as a weapon nor threatening to at this time, unless you think the rebuke comment is a threat, and we'll get to that. At 1:20 and 42 seconds, Deputy Grayson, as he partially draws his pistol, which you can hear, says, "You better effing not. I swear to God, I'll effing shoot you right in the effing face." Still, Sonya Massey is still generally facing the sink, looking over her left shoulder. She's not walking towards the officers. She's not throwing anything at the officers. Sonya has made zero threats towards the officers. Deputy Grayson threatened to shoot her in the face, clearly placed his hand on his partially drawn pistol just in response to Sonya saying that she rebukes, presumably the other deputy who was moving away from her, in the name of Jesus. So I looked up the definition of rebuke, and here it is. As a verb, expresses sharp disapproval or criticism of someone because of their behavior or actions. Example, she has rebuked him for drinking too much. As a noun, an expression of sharp disapproval or criticism. Example, he hadn't meant it as a rebuke, but Neil flinched. Nowhere in the commonly used definition of rebuke is it ever utilized to signify a threat towards anyone. At 1:20 and 43 seconds, Sonya said nothing further and didn't move at all, yet Deputy Grayson then fully drew his pistol and he aimed it at Sonya's face. This is just 1 second after he had threatened to shoot her in the face. At 1:20 and 44 seconds, Deputy Grayson shouts, "Drop the effing pot," while aiming towards Sonya's face. Sonya has said nothing else, nor made any moves towards the officers. At 1:20 and 44 seconds, switching to Deputy Grayson's body cam now, we can see that at this time, this is the first time that she's being told to drop the pot. He says, "Drop the effing pot." Then Sonya raises both her hands in the air and she says, "I'm sorry." Zooming in, we can see that at that exact moment, Sonya is not holding the pot that she's being ordered at gunpoint to drop. The pot is actually on the stove, and Sonya has oven mitts in her hands. She also appears to be covering her ears possibly and clearly afraid as Deputy Grayson shouts at her to drop the effing pot. At 1:20 and 45 seconds, Sonya ducks down. At this moment, you hear the other deputy draw his pistol also, and he also yells at Sonya to, quote, "drop the pot." So now there are two cops screaming at her to drop the pot that she's not holding. How do we know that she's not holding it? Well, let's switch body cams. Let's go to Deputy Grayson's body cam. At that exact moment, 1:20 and 45 seconds, you can see clearly and conclusively that Sonya did not take the pot with her when she ducked down. The pot is still sitting on the counter. Here's a view from that body cam zoomed in, showing the pot not in Sonya's possession, as she's ducked down in fear and confusion. At 1:20 and 46 seconds, the other deputy now fully draws his pistol as it comes into view, and he also aims it at Sonya Massey, And he also orders her to, quote, drop the pot that she's not holding. How do we know that she's still not holding the pot? Again, switching back to Deputy Grayson's body cam, the same moment, 1:20 and 46 seconds, we see from a better view now that when the other deputy joins Grayson, both aiming their guns at Sonya, both shouting at Sonya to drop the pot, we can see that at that very moment, she is not holding the pot. There's the pot, not in her hands. At 1:20 and 47 seconds, Deputy Grayson then begins to advance forward towards Sonya Massey, who has not moved from her position of cowering on her kitchen floor. Grayson is the one who begins to move. Instead of moving away from some threat that he allegedly perceived, he instead moves towards Sonya, or towards the alleged threat. Sonya is not moving at this time. At the same moment, 1:20 and 47 seconds, switching back to the other deputy's body cam, we can see that Grayson is moving towards Sonya Massey, and that the other deputy then has not moved, and so he muzzle sweeps Deputy Grayson's back as Grayson is quickly and suddenly moving in front of him and towards Sonya. Again, instead of away from some threat, or instead of creating distance between himself and a threat. Then at 1:20 and 47 seconds, looking from the other deputy's body cam, this is the exact moment that Deputy Grayson fired. At that moment, the other deputy's muzzle of his firearm is still pointed at the back of Deputy Grayson. So at that point, he could not have also fired. It looks like he likely could not even see Sonya Massey at the time that Grayson fired due to Grayson walking in front of him. Now, at 1:20 and 47 seconds, switching back to Deputy Grayson's body cam, we have a better view. This is what he saw, which appears to be, at the moment that he fired, within at least the same second, he sees Sonya Massey going from being crouched without holding the pot while at gunpoint to suddenly reaching up. This is as Grayson is quickly and suddenly advancing on her after having held her at gunpoint and threatened to shoot her in the face, ordered her to drop the pot numerous times that she wasn't holding. As he advances on her, Sonya then suddenly reaches up, grabs the pot with the oven mitts still on her hands, and then, at least with one hand, holds the pot over her head and dumps the water out. The claim is that she was throwing the water, or attempting to throw the water, at Deputy Grayson. Switching back again to the other deputy's body cam, at 1:20 and 48 seconds, we can see that after Grayson shoots, you can then see what appears to be the steaming water hit the office chair that's at the lower left and on the kitchen floor. And this office chair is between the officers and Sonya Massey. Clearly, the water was flying some distance through the air onto that chair and onto the floor. So there you have what I believe are the basic facts of the shooting of Sonya Massey. Those are screenshots of video that are indisputable. Those are timestamps that are indisputable. Those are the facts that both sides have to work with. To be clear, the Illinois State Police, who investigated the shooting, concluded that it was not a justified shooting. The officer was terminated and charged with first-degree murder. Most of the claims to the contrary by police officers and police activists that think that this officer is just getting railroaded have to do with a pot of boiling water is a weapon. And if somebody comes at you with a pot of boiling water, you're entitled to use deadly force to defend against that threat. I don't disagree with that, but here, what are the facts? Did she come at him with a pot of boiling water? No, at least not initially. Since Deputy Grayson is charged with first-degree murder, we have to look at this in the context of the criminal case. He can't deny shooting Sonya Massey. He did. It's on video. But what he can do is assert the affirmative defense of self-defense. And the standard of self-defense can be different in every state. Here, Deputy Grayson, under Illinois law, would be justified in shooting Sonya Massey only if he reasonably believed that doing so was necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm to himself or another, in this case, the other deputy. However, Section 7-4C of the Illinois self-defense statute says that this justification of self-defense is not available to a person who initially provokes the use of force against himself. So, under Illinois law, a person who initiates or provokes the use of force has only a limited right to thereafter use force in self-defense. So if Deputy Grayson was the initial aggressor, and we can see from the screenshots, from the timestamps, just merely in response to the rebuke comment, he pulled a gun on Sonya Massey, who's just standing in her kitchen with a pot of water. He threatens to shoot her in the face. He pulls his pistol and he aims at her face. Sonya Massey has taken no steps towards him. She has made no threats towards him. A rebuke is not a threat. To believe so may be objectively true or subjectively true, but it wouldn't be reasonable because that's not the definition of I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. At no point does she take any steps towards him. Yet he's holding her at gunpoint, threatening to shoot her in the face, tells her to drop the pot. Thereafter, she's not holding the pot. She drops to the ground. He continues to hold her at gunpoint. And then he begins to advance on her. So if he thought that he was in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm, remember, he wasn't there to arrest Sonya Massey. This was just a sudden thing that he perceived as a threat. If that's the case, and he had the ability to escape that threat, like walk backwards, which he didn't do it. Instead of just backing away and creating distance, creating space, he decides to quickly and suddenly move forward. He has problems with asserting self-defense here. One is that he was the initial aggressor. If he's going to argue she was an imminent threat because of boiling water, well, it's only proximity to that boiling water that would make it an imminent threat. All he has to do is create some space. He didn't do that. But what about the fact that he was a police officer? So according to the Illinois State Police and prosecutors in Illinois, Deputy Grayson was acting illegally. He was acting unlawfully. I think there's a pretty easy case to be made here that at the point she was being held at gunpoint, when she wasn't supposed to be under arrest, these people were invited into her home. They pulled guns on her, threatened to shoot her in the face. At that point, she is actually the one who's in imminent danger. And it would be very reasonable for her to have believed that she needs to use self-defense, that she needs to somehow defend herself against this imminent and unlawful threat to her life. So she could have pulled a gun at that point, and it would be seen as reasonable. She could have grabbed any weapon, but all she did was grab the pot. Illinois state law does allow their citizens to assert self-defense when they use force against a police officer under certain circumstances. It can't just be that it's an unlawful arrest, that they believe it's an unlawful arrest, and it is, in fact, an unlawful arrest. It has to be an excessive force situation. So where an officer uses excessive force, that then invokes the right of self-defense in Illinois. And as a citizen is entitled to use self-defense against a police officer where they are using illegal and unconstitutional excessive force against that citizen. So here, aiming a pistol at Sonya Massey's face, threatening to shoot her in the face, and then advancing on her as if he's about to do that, in my opinion, fits right under that exception. Here's the point. Under Illinois law, Sonya Massey would have been legally justified. It would have been lawful for her to grab a pot of water or any other weapon and try to defend herself against this unlawful officer. Even though he has a badge, it doesn't matter. He was acting unlawfully. If the facts really were that he came inside her house and just out of nowhere, she picks up a pot of boiling water and comes at him with the pot of boiling water, nobody would deny that he would be allowed to defend himself. He would be allowed to use deadly force to defend against that threat, even boiling water. But those aren't the facts that we have here. You don't just look at that moment. You have to look at how that moment was created. That's why you can't be an initial aggressor. You can't provoke a road rage incident and then shoot the guy and claim, well, it was self-defense. if you were the aggressor, if you provoked it. That's just what happened here. Sonya Massey had committed no crime. Yes, he thought she was threatening them with the pot of boiling water. In fact, she was not. And that's the claim that he can make to a jury if and when he gets to trial. His belief that he and his partner were in imminent danger, it has to be objectively reasonable. Even if he truly believed they were in danger, that belief can be unreasonable. And from my understanding, that's the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder in Illinois. So a jury could ultimately determine that, yeah, he thought he was in danger from Sonya Massey, but that belief was unreasonable under the circumstances. So they could find him not guilty of first-degree murder, but guilty of second-degree murder because he did have a belief, but it was unreasonable. And I think there's a good chance that that is where this falls. He didn't walk in there with any intent to kill Sonya Massey that night. It was something that happened suddenly, and because he never should have been a police officer, he didn't have the temperament for it, maybe he didn't have the intelligence for it, and he was very quick on the trigger, and apparently very afraid of the situation. All of those things are unreasonable. They're indicators that he acted unreasonably. So thanks for watching. And I want to thank this audience for donating to the Institute for Justice in the last video. I'm told that just in like 4 days, you guys donated over $25,000 to the Institute for Justice to help them in their fight against the DEA seizing cash at airports unconstitutionally. That really is awesome. Remember, our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.